So throughout this course, I've been referring to you as a productizer, but truthfully, until now, we haven't really discussed how to productize. That's what this section is about. In order to run a lean, profitable operation, you have to have well-defined processes and systems in place. Having these in place also means happier customers, as you are less likely to forget something when you have your processes dialed in and documented. Let's start with your design process. As we've said before, ultimately, the goal of your business is to scale and either sell the business or remove yourself from the business so that you can make passive income. In order to do that, your design process needs to center around these 4 pillars. First, you obviously want the design to be good. At the end of the day, you are offering web design, and if the final product isn't good, nothing else really matters. But even something as subjective as design can be procedurized by applying basic parameters and using good starting templates. For example, you can have a font guideline of font pairings that you like to use, a color guideline that says which colors are good in which situations and which colors should be avoided. You can even add or remove design elements or calls to action based on industry or type of client. All of these things are good to document in a master document, not only so that you have to think about them less with each client, but so that your future employees have a place where they can look for guidance. Next, we want our website builds to be error-free. Again, good processes and good documentation make this a lot easier. Every site you launch should go through a launch checklist. Have all of the contact forms been tested? Is all dummy content replaced? Are all of the pages that the client asked for included? Were the client's design preferences honored? And etc. But even though we want to be error-free, we also want to be able to do things fast. The technology you use here is really important. If you're using a crappy theme forest theme and trying to stitch together a hodgepodge of plugins, the process will be a lot slower and your end product will be a lot less stable. This is something that I found out the hard way when I was doing freelance work and was the main driver for me building Offsprout. Offsprout automates practically everything that can be automated, and it makes the design process and handling revision requests incredibly fast. It's really the single biggest key to how we scaled JurisPage. And finally, you want your processes to be trainable and repeatable. This is the key to scaling and the key to removing yourself from your business. At every point in your process, you should be striving to take out as much of the guesswork and honestly, as much of the skill required to complete the process as possible. This means it becomes easier to find employees that can fill the role and again, makes for a more predictable product that when done right will make your customers happy. No surprise here, we have a downloadable for this lesson that is more or less the design process documentation that we used for JurisPage. As always, if you don't have the sheet already, you can find it at productized.com/DL. You'll see that it's pretty thorough, but it was still a living document. As our designers hit new snags and our customers started asking for different things, we would go back and modify this as necessary. So let's take a look at the document. So we originally did this design process in a service called Process Street. That's process.st. And I definitely recommend them. They have a free tier that's pretty useful and pretty featureful. And then this is an export from that process. But if you see here, we have kind of our table of contents up top. Then we go through creating the site, then the site setup process, selecting the pages, filling in social media links, etc. Then we have some design considerations. And remember, this is what I was talking about before, where even though design is very subjective, you can still set some parameters so that you have a pretty consistent design style. And here is an example. We have color schemes that we recommend, fonts that we recommend using. Then we have some logo fonts that we recommend if the client hasn't provided a logo and we're going to use a text logo instead. So you can set those parameters in your design and you'll have much more consistent and good looking design if you have the right parameters set. Then we go into how each page and page type should be designed. I won't go through all of this in detail right now, but you can see we have a homepage section, attorney content, practice area content, testimonial content, and obviously this is for JurisPage, so we were law firm focused, but you would want to modify this to fit your type of clientele. So if that's restaurants, then you'd want a menu page. If that's contractors, then you'd want service pages, etc. The last thing that I'd like to, or a couple more things actually. This is the final run-through checklist. I definitely recommend having this as your kind of launch checklist for your designer to go through before a site is launched. It makes sure that everything is running correctly. There aren't kind of formatting mistakes, especially if you're copying and pasting content to import it. This is pretty important. And then finally, email that it's finished. This right here, this very last part, is an example of the design justification, which we'll talk about now. The last part of the design process that I'd like to discuss is the design justification. This is where you email the client to let them know that their site is ready for them to view, and then basically reiterate the preferences that the client has expressed to you, telling them how you've used those preferences to create their design. Sending out this design justification serves two related purposes. One, by forcing you to go back through your notes about what the client asked for, you're ensuring that you actually did everything that the client asked for. And two, you're showing the client that you listened to them and that the end product is the result of the client's preferences. This isn't going to magically eliminate revision requests from clients, but it does help to significantly reduce them. And it makes clients feel like they were a bigger part of the process. Next, we'll be talking about dialing in your project management processes. See you there.